What's up? What's up? Yeah. Myles Pod. Welcome to episode 5. I'm happy to be here, man. As always, I'm glad that you're tuning in. Wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. Just be sure to follow so you can stay up to date with every new episode of the Myles Pod. Hope you guys had a good day, good week, good month so far. Hope you're staying productive, staying safe, most of all. And welcome. You know, at the Myles Pod, we want to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, doubts, and any limitations you may think exist. That's what we're about over here. That's what I'm about. Today's going to be a pretty cool pod. A little deep, but pretty cool nonetheless. So let's go on ahead and get it started. So I hope everyone is good. I'm good. Doing good. Hope everyone is getting prepared for summer. I don't know, you guys are experiencing the weather right now, but out here in the Bahamas, it is hot. Hope wherever you are, you're getting a little bit of sunshine yourself. It's going to be a hot summer for sure. I'm not really a summer guy. I don't like hot weather like that. I'd much rather the cooler winter, well, not maybe winter, but springish weather. You know, I like the cool breeze, but I like the sun out, but I don't like it to be blazing hot. This summer is definitely going to be hot in the Bahamas. But I'm not complaining, though. You know, we are alive to see another day, so that's always good, man. So, what I want to do in this pod today, man, I want to talk about just some social issues that are going on in the U.S., but I mean, you know, I think we experience these types of things in some aspect, you know, in all of the countries that we all live in. You know, we all in 2020 got to experience the whole George Floyd situation, and you know, God bless him and his family. You know, I thank God that, you know, justice was served. But it's not enough, man. You know, after the verdict was read, man, the same, less than 24 hours afterwards, you know, there were quite a number of other incidences that happened. And however you feel about those incidences, I know we all have our own personal feelings towards whether, you know, they were justified or, you know, it was necessary, or, you know, the way that things happened could have been avoided. And I hear all of that and I agree with all of that. But at the heart of it all, man, there's a human problem that we're experiencing in the world. Like, and this is, you know, this isn't anything new. You know, with this racism and prejudice has been around, you know, for over 2,000 years. It's just a part of human nature, in a sense. You know, there's always this segment of the population that's going to feel that they're better than or greater than or should be better than or greater than. You know, so there's something that's been passed down to, you know, to us traditionally, through culture, through families, through education, you know, and it's a real problem, and it's getting to the point where, you know, it's affecting our day-to-day lives, right? Whether that's, you know, your business or your family members, where, you know, our family members are becoming victims. I mean, and you know, that's not the new thing that's happening. You know, I think just right now, it's everything just being recorded. Everything is it's going viral. And, and just seeing all these experiences could be traumatic for a lot of folks, especially, the younger generation. I remember when the whole George Floyd thing happened, I had a few conversations with a couple of my boys who have kids, and, they was explaining to me that they had to explain what was going on with the kids because it was everywhere, right? Like, it was all over the news. It was on everyone's social media platforms. So, that was a real conversation, especially because everyone was locked down at the time, so you really couldn't go anywhere. So you were kind of forced to somehow, you were going to see it at some point. And that was a tough conversation because some of them had young kids. And in thinking through this whole, all of these incidences, I remembered, that racism and prejudice isn't a new thing. Back in the Bible days, Peter was a racist. Peter, I'm talking about Saint Peter, one of Jesus' disciples. I guess the main guy, if you want to call him that. He was racist, man. Peter was a Jew, and Jews and Gentiles didn't mix back in those days. And Peter, was ministering in a town, and he was fellowshipping with some Gentiles, and some of his friends came up from Jerusalem, his Jewish friends, and they frowned upon that, man. They're like, man, what are you doing? Like, how can you hang with these lesser than people? We're better than them. And Peter sided with his friends. He, just like how he denied Jesus, ironically enough, he denied, human beings, the Gentiles. And, Paul, Apostle Paul, met up with Peter sometime after and really chastised him for it. And, I remember when my dad did a talk on that, and it was just so surprising to me. I mean, like, you read these things in the Bible, like, growing up, but it doesn't really hit home until, like, it hits home, right? So you hear all these things, you see all these stories, but there are certain parts of it that doesn't register until, like, you're going through, or you're mature enough to understand certain situations, and you realize, like, man, wait, this isn't a new situation, this isn't a new incident. Actually, what I want to do, I want to play a little excerpt from one of my dad's speeches that he did. He was doing his talk on exactly, like, where we're discussing racism and prejudice, and he was reminding the audience of, just because you're saved and born again, and, Peter was one of Jesus' disciples. Like, you can't get any closer to God than Peter. And I'm talking, like, just physically, like, being around him, all of those years, and learning from him, and him being, your master teacher and whatnot, and to still, end up being prejudiced and having a sense of racism towards a certain group of people. Like, it's amazing to me, right? And it just shows us that, man, if Peter, if it happens to Peter, then we shouldn't be surprised, right? Because we're not perfect. I mean, all of us have our prejudices, I'm sure. I would hope a lot of us aren't racist, but I mean, I'm sure a lot of us are racist. Maybe we know it, maybe we don't. But it's a part of the world that we live in, and it's a part of our history. It's a part of what we have grown and developed through over the years, as countries, as nations, as individuals, as neighborhoods. We've grown like this as families. All of this has been kind of passed down from generation to generation, right? And it's going to take a lot more than just some kumbaya moment to really get rid of what's going on. So let's just play this. Let's play this excerpt, and let's have a little discussion afterwards.
Sometimes we think because a person is born again, they're not racist. Or because somebody is from the Holy Spirit, they're not prejudiced. But being born again doesn't change your corrupt thinking. There has to be a process. And sometimes it has to be an intervention by God. As a matter of fact, racism and prejudice is so deeply embedded in our spirit that most of the time we need a miracle to break it. And that's what God had to do. He had to interfere with Peter's attitude, his upbringing, his culture, in order to set him free from his attitude towards certain groups of people. In the next chapter, you'll find that some of Peter's friends came from Jerusalem when they heard that something had happened here. And they were very much against what Peter was doing with the Gentiles. And Peter, of course, tried to side with them and wanted to actually hide and not mix with the Gentiles again because he was influenced by his friends. But here's the problem. You remember that Paul, the apostle, came to this city and rebuked Peter and said, how can you do that? How can you claim to love these people and yet still hate them at the same time? And Peter was rebuked by Paul, and Peter submitted to Paul's rebuke, and Peter became open and delivered from that spirit. God has no favoritism. God don't like Jews better than Gentiles, or white better than black, or Indian better than Chinese, or whatever. God is a God of humanity. And there's only one race on earth. It's the human race. Anything beyond that is satanic. God destroyed racism. He canceled prejudice. He got rid of the spirit of segregation by breaking the power that was over Peter. And who would think that the man that was left in charge of the church was racist and prejudiced? I hope that you will understand that even though you may be worshiping God and loving Him and having a great love for His work, you may also be suffering from some problems that have been mentally, psychologically embedded in you. Ask the Lord to clean whatever else is left inside of you. All of you know me from all the work I've been doing, and I go to every church, I go to every type of people. I've been to over 100 countries, and to me, you're beautiful humans, that's all. And you remind me of the image of Christ, and that's what I have in my heart, and that's why so many of you have come from all over the world to be with me, because you feel my heart and my love, my genuineness toward you. And I hope you have that same spirit and say, Lord, your kingdom is for one people, and that is humans. Give me a love for everybody.
Give me a love for everybody. We're all just beautiful humans, right? We come from different parts of the world. We speak different languages. We look different. We dress different. We have different cultures. But fundamentally, we're just all human beings, man. And that's what I reduce everyone to. We're all humans first. And I have a lot of people like coming, like messaging me or, online and on on all these social media platforms. Like if I post something or, post an opinion on the things that are taking place. And a lot of people say like, man, you're feeding into the lies and the negativity that they're spewing. And, what would your dad think? And, people say all of these things, man. And I'm like, we're all entitled to our opinions. First of all, I don't take any of that personal, right? I think I'm to the point in my life where I know, like, you put yourself out there, especially on a public platform, you're opening yourself up for criticism, praise, gratitude, all of it. So you just can't want the good and not have the bad, right? So I've accepted the fact that if I express an opinion, I'm going to have people that are feel a certain type of way about my opinion. But I'm open to having a conversation. But I'm only going to have a mature conversation. And that's why I wanted to use this pod to just kind of have that conversation. Because this is something that that's happening, right? It's happening right before us. Something that we're going to have to deal with, something that, I hope not, but it's quite possible that my kids are going to have to deal with, at some point. And I don't want my any of my kids or any child, coming up in the next generations to have to worry about not being accepted or loved by their community, whether that's white, black, Asian, Mexican, Spanish, whatever community we all call home. We want to be accepted regardless of where we are in the world, regardless of what we're doing. And it hurts to see that this seems to be like a never-ending cycle. And I think what adds fuel to the fire is it's a political game now, and it's always been a bit political in a lot of countries, right? But it's happening in front of our eyes, and I think we look at the people in power and the individuals who are leading or in leadership positions to make the change, right? But I think the change has to start with us. I don't hate anybody, right? I don't despise human beings. I may despise their actions. I may despise their lifestyle, but I love everyone. I come into contact with persons who lead all kinds of different lifestyles, and I just, I'm not going to ignore or shut out someone just because, they may be a homosexual, or they may be an atheist, or they may be a Muslim, or they may be something that I don't believe in. I actually think it creates for a great conversation. I think if we all just fundamentally just had conversations with each other and understand, like, man, why are you so upset? Like, what is it with the color of my skin, or my sexual orientation, or how I choose to dress, or how I wear my hair? Like, there's so many of these stereotypes that have been created over the years, to where we tend to judge people by what we see on the outside and not who they are on the inside. And I truly think that it's a human problem that we have, and this issue is going to have to be resolved, from a human standpoint. I think we have to take onus on ourselves to really to be the change we want to see in the world. And I know that's easier said than done, and I know certain demographics and certain segments of the population have experienced a lot more of the negative aspect of things than others. And I'm not really saying to turn the other cheek, right? I'm just saying we don't want our kids to grow up in the mess that we're seeing now, right? And hate isn't something that is that we're born with as human beings. We're not born hating each other. Hate is a learned emotion. It's something that we're taught, or something that we observe and we experience, and it usually starts in the home, right? So your parents, they react a certain way to certain individuals or certain things, and the kids see this and they start to mimic what they see their parents doing, or what they see their guardians doing, and that's how the cycle continues. So to break the cycle, I think it's a matter of really changing the mindsets of the next generation. And I think we're getting there. My dad and I were having a conversation one time. I remember when I initially moved home to work with him, and at that point, the majority of his organizations were around for a minimum of 15 to 20 years at that point, right? So I was coming in, a new face with fresh ideas, and I was meeting like a lot of individuals who were a lot older, who had been around for some time, and who were used to things being done a certain way and didn't really see a need for change. And the changes that I wanted to implement was met with resistance and a lot of hesitation. And people were fearful of well, if he's coming in, he being me, If he's coming in, what's going to happen to my job, or what's going to happen to this department or this organization or this thing that we've been doing? Like, how is this going to look? And I remember I got so frustrated at a certain point that I started to. I told my dad, man, you need to just fire everybody, right? Just get rid of everybody, because it makes no sense for them. Like, I wasn't being demanding or forceful of saying, hey, this is what we're doing. I was kind of like just trying to give my suggestions and, be diplomatic and respectful in a situation. But it got to a certain point where I just was like, man, this ain't making no sense. So I wrote a plan to reorganize and restructure a few of the departments. And I remember I had sat down and he smiled and he was like, yeah, let me have a conversation with you. And he just went through the process. That's what I was trying to think of. He went through the whole process of the newer generation coming into an organization or a structure that was established and built by the generation prior to them. And he told me two things that always stuck with me. Right, the first was he was like, man, when you're coming into a situation, whether it be a business or a team or an organization or whatever it is, there are people that are a part of that organization that have been a part of that organization long before you were, who are still there now, and the work and the sacrifices that they put in got the organization to where it is today. So it would be disrespectful of me or someone like me coming in and just wanted to blow everything up, right, and change everything. And the first thing he was like, man, you need to respect everyone that's here. Be respectful and just try to learn them and try to understand, like, okay, why is it that we do things a certain way? I may not agree with it, but let me first understand why. Why do we do it this way? And in humbling myself to gain that understanding, you get a better sense of, oh, okay, so it's really not, I may have thought that things that were being done because of like one individual, but it could have been a department. It could have been decisions that were made prior to me coming that, and it's just a whole lot of things that you start to unravel once you take the time out to really understand individuals. So that's what I started to do. I took a step back. I stopped wanting to implement a lot of things, and I really took time to just really understand and really speak to and talk to and let them explain to me, and them being employees, department heads, managers, supervisors, just having that conversation and seeing, well, what don't you like? What do you suggest the changes be, if any? Or if you don't think any changes should be made, then why? Why are you comfortable with it like this? And then you just gain a better understanding of it. So humbling yourself and getting a better understanding of the situation that you're in. That's number one. The second thing that he told me that stuck with me, and I think this was the most important thing, and I think about this, quite often. And he took me back to in the Bible where Moses had led the Israelites into the wilderness, and the goal was to take them into the promised land, and they spent 40 years just wandering in the wilderness. And it wasn't because that's what God wanted. It wasn't because that was the plan. It was because the minds and the hearts of that generation of slaves were so fixated and so hooked to where they came from that they didn't want to change the way that they thought and the way that they perceived themselves and life and the things around them. And I think that's the major problem, right? You have these elder statesmen and these older individuals who are in these leadership positions, and they're so grounded in their ways that when you talk about change, they fear being forgotten. They fear being thrown away or thrown to the wayside, out of a job, out of an income. So there's this self-preservation thing that kicks in, and, they do everything that they need to do to protect themselves and their well-being, right? And what God did was he waited until their kids came along and grew up. And that's the generation of the Israelites that went into the promised land, that went into Canaan. And he told me that, and I was, sometimes you have to wait an entire generation to see change happen. And that's hard, right? That's not a difficult thing. Can you imagine just wandering around in the wilderness for 40 years, just sleeping in tents, and granted, a lot of things were being provided for them, right? They didn't have to worry about food. They didn't have to worry about clothing. They didn't have to worry about anything. God really looked out for them, but even that wasn't enough. They still found things to complain about. And, one or two times God got so upset that he was ready to just kill everybody. And, that's another thing. Like people say, with all of these protests and riots that are happening, like they're uncalled for and like, they shouldn't happen. Now, I'm not saying that I agree with the destruction and the negative aspect of, what the riots bring. But as protest should be, that's a part of it. And I think that just speaks to the frustration that people are feeling. You got folks who've lost family members, who've lost loved ones to senseless violence, and if the leaders aren't doing anything about it, then what else are the people supposed to do, right? And if God himself was getting so frustrated that he just wanted to do away with, this generation of people, and Moses himself had to tell God, like, let's calm down, don't get upset, let's just wait for their offspring. So if God gets frustrated, imagine us as human beings, right? How are we to feel? So I think, we, change is going to happen. I'm hopeful of it. And, even if I don't see it, and, we look back, 40, 50, 60 years ago where, you had individuals like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X who were going through the same process, right? Trying to get change to happen, trying to create a movement within the culture of this race war that, we've been going through over the years. And, they succumbed, or they were killed in the process, or they were killed believing in what they believed in. And, there were others that came and followed them. And, we've come, further along. We may not be where we want to be. We definitely aren't where we want to be as a people, right? Or as a human race. But, I feel that, there's some change that has happened, man. I don't think we could deny that. And I think as communities, and when I say communities, I'm talking about as the black community, as the white community, as the Asian community, the Spanish community, all these different ethnicities that we represent as a human race. We have to start taking onus in ourselves and in our own communities, right? And where we're taking responsibility for our portion of whatever is going on. We don't want to continue to cycle. We don't want things to continue to happen. And I think it really starts with us and our home and what we can teach our kids and how we can raise our kids to just not hate, right? Just love people, man. Love, reduce everyone to human beings. I think that's what we need to start doing. And that'll be difficult, of course, because we have people that aren't going to think and feel the way that we're feeling. So in that instance, you just have to be smart and try to be as wise as you can in every situation. But at the same time, I think a focus on, starting the change with us. Now, is it going to be easy? Of course not. I found myself getting, hella upset when, certain things, when I see certain things unfold the way they are unfolding, and, these laws that they're putting into place, which seems to be, just extending this systemic suppression or oppression that, has been experienced for so many years. But, for me, I think that we're going to have to be the one to continue to inspire and continue to teach our kids, our loved ones, our friends, to keep having these conversations. And, like I say, hopefully at some point we'll actually see the complete change that we're hoping for. It's definitely not going to be easy. Unfortunately, it's going to continue in this way for quite some time. But we have to stay diligent. We have to stay, try to be as positive as possible. And again, it's not going to be easy. The depending on the country that you're in, like, we don't experience racism like it's experienced in the U.S. between, like, the black community and the white community. But there is a sense of prejudice here in the Bahamas, 100%. And I'm sure it's the same way around the world. You may not experience racism in, like, black and white, or, from ethnicity to ethnicity, but there may be, capitalism, there may be social racism, there may be all of these other prejudices that exist that still divide us as a human race. I think we should all just be hoping and wanting to just love each other, man, and live in peace. And I know that sounds cliche, right? And it sounds almost impossible, but I think it's something that we could and that we should all strive for. But yeah, we'll see how things turned out. I just wanted to touch this topic just a bit, just to express myself, because it's been a lot, and it still is a lot. Even today, well, yesterday or this week, it just seems as if it's a never-ending cycle, right? All these incidences that are occurring all over the U.S., and even the incidents that occurred in Nigeria last year, and other parts of Africa. There are other incidences, and the incidents in Lebanon. There's all of these things that happen that there's a segment of the population that just are left hopeless, right? And they aren't being taken care of as they should by the leaders that are in place. And I think it's going to take generations like ours and the ones after mine that leaders are going to have to stand up and be at the forefront of these fights, and just doing what we know is right, what we know needs to happen for change to be realized. But it's going to take some time for sure. And I just want to spread the word of love, and just meeting people where they are, as upset as we may be, as frustrating as it gets, as hard as it may be, to do sometimes. I think we got to lead with love. So yeah, I don't want to run on too much about it. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about on this pod. Let me know how you feel. Send some comments. Just if you agree, tell me you agree. If you don't, tell me why. And let's start a conversation. How about that? I think that'll be good. So now we've reached the segment of the show where we're going to hit on this milestone now. So the milestone for today, essentially it just feeds off what I've been discussing. And, today, this episode's milestone is simply be the change that you want to see in the world today. It starts with us. I want to remind you to continue to reduce everyone to a human first. Meet everyone where they are. And I think we'll definitely see the change start to happen. But it definitely starts with us. Starts with us as individuals, starts with us as parents, starts with us as brothers, as sisters, as managers, as supervisors. It starts with us. And we have to put the responsibility on ourselves to ensure that we're raising up a next generation that isn't going to continue the cycle. Raising up a next generation that are going to love everyone regardless of race, regardless of sexual orientation, regardless of gender, regardless of anything that makes you, let's say, uncomfortable, that you don't agree with. At the end of the day, we're all human beings, man. And you'll be surprised what acceptance does. Let's just accept everyone for the choices they make, whether we agree with them or not. I'm not saying agree with the lifestyle. I'm not saying agree with the choices even. I'm just saying accept it. And that's just how to start the conversation there. All right. So you guys stay up. Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Myles High Pod. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.